So this is your floating transport for the beginning of the programme, is it? Yes. Well, why not a chain ferry? After all, we're on the River Exe, and that's vitally important to Exeter, which we're doing today. You see, the city's wealth was born out of the River Exe and the harbourage here. First settled by the Celts, then along came the Romans. They called it Isca Domnoniorum. The Domnonii were the people of Devon and Cornwall. When the Romans left, everybody moved into their fort, which was 42 acres, and that became the city. It became incredibly wealthy. By the time William the Conqueror arrived in 1066, this was one of the largest cities in England. And they didn't give in to him until 1068. Right, we've got loads to find out. I'll tell you what, I'll give Clive a hand here and get this thing really moving. Hey, they're fast, those chain ferries, aren't they? Anyway, here we are on the quayside in Exeter. There's a lot of filming gone on here, I'll tell you. What are you doing? Now look, let me explain. You have the camera and you are doing the filming today. I'm talking about filming in the past. It's all happened here. The Uneeden line. This is where they had their quayside. The Uneeden line was a really, really big series, all about boats, going all over the place. Set somewhere like Southampton or Portsmouth or something. You worked on the sequel. Sequel to the Uneeden? I don't remember there being a sequel. The Uneeden Curve. This was the quayside that they used in the series. You see, it wasn't Southampton or Portsmouth or wherever. It was right in the centre of Exeter. Amazing. These are actually Victorian buildings, but the quayside dates back much, much further than that. 1564. This is the original quayside, an Elizabethan dock. Unreal. This is where the boats used to come up and they would offload here. Original building. Fantastic. The most remarkable thing about this quayside is it's right in the city centre. Is that nice then? Your little flowers or whatever they are in the foreground. Lovely. Well, whilst you're doing that, I'm standing in the rain. This is the Exe Bridge. This is fantastic. A huge, great bridge. This is just half of it. It actually dates back to 1200. This is the oldest large stone bridge in the country. Brilliant. 8.5 arches of it going across here. It was built by a man called Nicholas Gervais and his son, who was 4 times mayor of the city. They were very influential, very wealthy merchants, and they wanted the bridge, so they raised some money. They also raised money for some properties either side of the bridge that helped pay for it to be maintained. What forward-thinking men these were! Do you know, during the 13th and 14th century, there were houses on this bridge. I can't imagine where they, unless they were on stilts, something like that. I'm not really sure. That's the old church, and that was an integral part of the bridge, but it actually burnt down and was rebuilt in the 1830s. This bridge, by the 1770s, was considered too narrow, so they decided to build a new bridge. That is New Bridge Street over there. Now, what would you notice about this bridge and that bridge? With it being the Exe Bridge, the River Exe is not here. That was the answer I was looking for. It's moved. It's now about 100 yards that way, but the river used to be very wide medieval times when this was first built. There we go. Right, we need to move on, and I'll give you a clue as to where we're going next. If you'd had a bit of a cloistered upbringing, you'd know where we're going. A bit of a cloistered upbringing. Never mind, I'll just take you anyway. Hey, a cloistered upbringing, a cloistered cathedral. Doesn't matter. But what a cathedral! Exeter Cathedral. I know it. No, what's a cathedral? Meaning how fantastic it is, built between 1107 and 1350. But what makes it truly special is its twin towers. Just like Wembley. Yeah, exactly the same, except these were built in the 11th century. Edward the Confessor personally appointed Bishop Leofric here, who made it the Minster of St Mary and St Peter. And it was a united diocese that lasted until 1877. All of that doesn't mean a row of twigs to me, but anyway, fantastic building, and let's go inside it. Come on. Sir John Gilbert of Compton, 1596 he died, and that's his wife beside him. And the most remarkable thing about him, he was the half-brother of Sir Walter Raleigh. In fact, if you look, he looks a bit like Walter Raleigh as well. There's a bit of a family resemblance there, isn't there? What? Did Walter Raleigh have no nose? Look, it's broken off over the years, okay? At your feet, the remains of John MacDonald are buried here, son of Captain Alan MacDonald and Flora MacDonald. She of Bonnie Prince Charlie and the boat over the seas to the Isle of Skye. In fact, there's another one of her sons also buried in the cathedral. Now, one of the most remarkable things about this cathedral, apart from how beautiful it is its architecture. Look at that Gothic ceiling, the longest one of its type in the world. And it's also decorated, the finest decorated Gothic architecture in this country. And you've got a minstrel's gallery up there, and at 4 o'clock on Christmas Day, the choir go up there and sing. Isn't that nice? Now, this cathedral's also famous for having one of the earliest clocks in the country in the 1200s. And then in the 1400s, it was replaced by this clock, 1484. This is truly brilliant. You've got your minutes up at the top. It says 40 minutes past, right? You've got your hours being pointed out by the fleur-de-lis. It says 2 o'clock. The bottom of the fleur-de-lis points at the position of the moon in the cycle of the month. Then you've got the moon, and then in the middle, the golden orb, that is Earth, because they believed everything revolved around Earth. So it says it's 20 to 2, a modern watch. Absolutely spot on. Brilliant. What? Why has it got a cat hole? A cat? It has got a cat hole, and there's a good story. You see, there was a mouse in here that nibbled away at the clock's wires that stopped it from working. So they got a cat, gave it a hole so it could chase the mouse. What? Hickory dickory dock. That's true. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1, the mouse was gone, hickory dickory dock. The nursery rhyme comes from this clock. You just got me singing a nursery rhyme in a cathedral. Where have you been? I've been waiting for you. Come on. You've been getting some pictures. Right, good. Well, that'll be good for the programme. Now, the Cathedral Library. There is something in here that we have to see that is very, very important. You go that side, I'll go this. It's a book that dates back to 960 or 980. It is not a Catherine Cookson original. It's a bit more important than that. It is this book, the Exeter Book. Fantastically old and fantastically important. It was given to the cathedral by Bishop Leofric in the 11th century, and somehow it has survived. No one knows how, but there it is. It's been ill-treated in its time. This is a sort of copy of it. And you can see on this page, which is the first remaining page, that someone's put a beer jug down or something like that, and it's spilt on there, and it goes through all the pages, all stained all the way through. But if you go further back, you get perfect pages like that. In fact, most of the book is like that. Lots and lots of poems in here, lots and lots of authors. And some of those poems are also riddles, about 100 of them. Is reading it a riddle as well? Well, it's not easy, I have to admit, because it is written in Anglo-Saxon, a language that disappeared for a long, long time. Another reason for why it could have been chucked out, but it wasn't. The Exeter Book. Quite brilliant. Right, tea break's over, time to get back on your heads. And what you do, stop being so literal. I don't mean that. I mean, look, it's just an expression like, call me a cab. You know, what you're doing? Calling me a cab. Don't. Who are you going to call here? Just waving your silly finger. Yeah, that's fairly impressive. Who's this then? Hey? Stuart Blundell, he's a mate of yours. Hi, Stuart.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm all right. What is he, or it, or she?
It's Boris.
Boris?
Boris the Buick. It's a 1932 Buick.
Really?
Yeah, very, very unusual car. Probably only 3 in the world, I think.
Where did you get him from?
Originally from an Indian reserve in the middle of Canada, and had to bargain with this Indian for a long time, and reluctantly sold it to me for 350 quid. So I snapped his hand up, obviously.
Yeah, 350 quid. Well, he is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's a joy to drive in. Do you want to have a drive of it? Right, hop in then. I'll just put the brake on.
Hey.
And let you in.
Letting him in.
Want to come in? Here we are. Off you go.
You see, normally I get to go into things like that.
Well, I hope you enjoy your ride.
It's nice in there, isn't it? What? I'm not talking to you. Why couldn't I get to go in that car? Why you? Hey? Anyway, whilst you were posing around in your car, I found something really interesting. I found a witness to all of Exeter's bloody past. I found a witness to everything big that's happened in Exeter's history. It's not a person, it's a building. The Guildhall, which has stood here on High Street since 1160. Maybe even older than that. Not particularly that front. That went up in 1593. Come on, let's go in. How do you do that? Hey, not a bad door, is it? Solid oak, this. It cost £4 and 10 shillings. Look at it, it's beautiful. 1593. You're actually in the oldest part of the Guildhall. We're now into the medieval section. This was the front door. It would have been sort of an earthen floor. It wouldn't have had all these fancy wooden panellings on the side, and it wouldn't have had a roof like that. That went up in the 1400s. It's now the council chambers. Before, it was a courtroom. Judge Jeffreys presided here. He of the bloody assizes. There were all sorts of rebellious mobs held here. People sentenced to death for doing nasty things like stealing a sheep or a cow, or sent to Australia for nicking a woman's purse. Cooper's Company, these are the guilds. They go all the way along the walls, all the guilds that were here in the Guildhall. The Butcher's Company and the Merchant Adventurers from 1556. Wow! Let's go upstairs. No, not again. You've got the city regalia next to you there. Look, all of the stuff they still use today in all the ceremonies, except for that one in the middle. That's Nelson's sword. They presented it to Nelson, and eventually after he died it was presented back to the city of Exeter. And through here you've got the public gallery overlooking the Guildhall. Fantastic. One of the oldest civic buildings still in use in the country today. What did they do with the original one? Oh, well, they got a big white removals van and they put it in the back of it and they drove it away. Oh, I see what you mean. The house that moved. Except the Guildhall didn't really move. They just built the new one on top of it. Look, the house that moved used to live over there. There's the church on the old X Bridge. Remember, I was talking about it before, 1200s. You don't, do you? Anyway, it lived there, but when they put this new road in, the inner bypass, they thought this 16th century merchant's house was far too precious to knock down. I wish other towns thought the same way. Anyway, they put rollers underneath it, and they slowly dragged it past the West Gate, which is the wall we've just gone past. They dragged it over 2 days to here. It used to be a sort of bric-a-brac shop with the merchants' quarters above. Now it's a wedding dress shop, and there's a rather splendid dress in the window there. I like that one. It's like the blue one I've got. Very funny. Over here we've got a Norman church, and we've got Matthew the Miller's clock up there. Now the character in the centre is supposed to be Henry VIII. Doesn't look anything like him, which is probably why the locals named the clock after Matthew the Miller. Now, he was so punctual, did everything in his life, such clockwork pace, that the locals used to set their watches by him. So when they built that, they called it Matthew the Miller clock. This is lovely, Stepcote Hill. Now, this is just going back to medieval times. It's not changed. You'd come through the West Gate, and this would be your way into the city. Fantastic. Strangely, I'm going uphill to go underground. So here we are at the underground passages of Exeter. Well, we're not quite in the passages, but we will be in a minute. First of all, remember the Guildhall? Stupid question. Anyway, the man who carved the portico there also carved that. Queen Elizabeth. Amazing that that has survived. Look up here. Fire buckets from 1724. Brilliant. What? Why did they keep fire in buckets? And over here, a 3D model of how the city walls used to look. You had a Roman wall, a bit of a earth banking behind it, medieval walls on top of it, and then the Eastern Gate, how it would have looked at the time of Henry VIII. What's remarkable about this model is not the gate, it's not the wall, it's what? The world's smallest horse. No, it's not those little people there, it's that there. The underground passages, the only ones in this country that you can still go in, from the 14th century. They're not that small, they're quite big. What's even more remarkable is they're packed full of ghosts. And we're going in them. Come on. I'll do the ghostly stories in a bit. But first of all, let's talk about the passages themselves. This is fantastic. You're not moving. Hello? Are you petrified? Frozen solid? Look, you'll be all right. Trust me. They're only ghostly stories. This is the Cathedral Passage. The idea of the passages was to bring fresh water from outside of Exeter into the city itself, and this one obviously took it to the cathedral. This is 14th century. It was exactly the same as this in the 14th century. It's amazing. The pipes were on the bottom. Now, this was so advanced because other pipes had been put in V-ditches and then soil put on top. But of course, if they had sprung a leak, you had to dig all the soil up just to get at the pipe. These were designed so that you could maintain the pipes. Brilliant! And in doing so, they would wrap material that was soaked in beeswax around the pipes, and that would stop the leak. But of course, rats liked the beeswax, and they would come in here and eat it. So there'd be loads of rats in here, which would be most unpleasant, and then you'd have your leak back again. 1832, they had cholera in Exeter. Everywhere just about had cholera. And lots of people started to die, except for the people that drank water from these pipes, the rich, who paid for their water, because this was fresh water coming into the city. The main symptom, of course, for cholera is a slightly dicky tummy and then instant death. Now, on to the ghost stories. There's a cavalier, there's all sorts of stories. There's also Albert. with his bicycle. Now, there's a hatch just down here, up to the street level, which apparently one day somebody left open, and Albert went in on his bicycle. Apparently you can still see him today riding around these passages. I'll leave you with him. Hey, you all right, mate? You look a bit pale. Hey, steady. Who rattled your cage? Was it me by any chance? Well, I don't care, because you stole my car, you made me sing a nursery rhyme in a cathedral, and when we're looking at one of the most historic books in the world, you start talking about Catherine Cookson. You're in embarrassment. Anyway, here we are in Topsham, which is quite interesting, actually. This is where the traders used to bring the merchandise in and take it up the road to Exeter, as I said at the beginning of the programme. This used to be a bigger port than Exeter. And, you know, during Roman times, this was a naval base. Very famous here for shipbuilding as well. And talking of ships, it's getting dark, I've had a very long day, and I need my boat. What have you arranged? That, the Sea Dream, the Topsham to Turf ferry, and what would there be in Turf that I might... Hey, drinks? What do you mean, drinks? There's a pub on an island. Really? Well, this takes people to the island. How long does it take? 15. All right, 15 minutes, right. A pub. Oh, do you know, I'm a bit short of the old foldy stuff. You haven't got any, have you? Because, no, you know, we could have a bit of a jar, couldn't we, if you had... That'd be fantastic. I mean, you're all right, really. Everybody has problems, you know, off days, bad days, things like that. You're a mate to me, you are. Come on, pal, I'll buy you a drink for being such a good lad. Let's get on board. It's great, this, isn't it? Hey, apart from swimming, getting a ferry's the only way you can get to the pub. Isn't that brilliant? So during the summer, when there's loads of tourists around, they're up and down here, loads, like 16 times a day, running boatloads of people backwards and forwards from the pub. Costs about £3, I think it is, for an adult to return. So go on, pay 'em, will you?